Scott, thank you so much for joining us. I know you got a show in a half hour, so we'll only keep you about 10 minutes or so, if that's all right.
Hey, you know I'm one of them radio hosts who's going to roll up right before the red light turns on.
Well, today will be an easy one for you. I'm not saying you're going to mail it in, but it'll be a fun day for you guys. All right, Nikola Jokic is somebody who, I go back. I'm almost your age. By the way, happy birthday! You got a birthday coming up tomorrow.
Oh, happy birthday!
Yeah, birthday tomorrow.
Yeah. I don't want to compare him to anybody, but he kind of got some Sabonis in him. He's got Arvydas. I'm talking about. He's got some Bird in him. Where do you put him after watching him for 6 or 7 years do what he's doing when you're talking about some of the greats of the game?
Well, I've always said this: the great players are always, the players coming up are always compared to other great players. And I was doing the draft actually for Turner when Dirk Nowitzki was drafted, and all the comparisons there was Larry Bird. And by the end of Dirk's career, he was Dirk Nowitzki.
Right.
He was Dirk, right? I had a conversation, probably Joker's second year in the league, and this was when Vlade was the GM of Sacramento, and I knew Vlade a little bit. And so I went up to him and I said, "Man, what do you think of this kid?" I said, my only comparison, I kind of compare him to you. And once again, this is like Joker's second year in the league. And he goes, "He's already better than me." And I went, "Whoa, okay." So then we go a little bit further. I don't know if it's the third year or whatever, but the Nuggets are playing a game, and he's now the full-time starter, and I think they've already traded Nurkic. We're playing the Pacers in London for a game, and I played with Isaiah Thomas for their back-to-back championship year. And so I go to Isaiah for the game. I said, "Man, you got to watch this guy." I said, I think he's going to be the best player that's ever played for the Denver Nuggets. And, they don't have maybe a history that Golden State has, but, Alex English did lead the NBA in scoring in the 80s. Dan Issel was a hell of a player from ABA into the NBA days. Pat Lever, David Thompson, go on and on. But I said, watch him and tell me what you think. And so Isaiah came onto the show, and Joker had, what we're seeing now. I saw him pull a lob over his head with his back to the basket to Fareed for a dunk, and I went, how the frick did he see that? But we had him on the broadcast in third quarter. I said, Isaiah, I told you for the game, I think he's like Vlade. He goes, no. He reminds me of Magic Johnson. So going back now into his 8th year in the league, guys, and listen, you guys have watched greatness for the last, 8 years yourselves in San Francisco. He's got touch around the basket like a Tim Duncan, and probably rebounds like a Duncan. Has great hands. Duncan might be a better shot blocker, but, Nikola Jokic's hands are just stupid good. He's got kind of the ability to stretch you now and hit threes, and his three ball looks a little bit, if you go back and look at Bird film with that ball tucked behind that right ear, looks a little bit like Bird, and I'm telling you, his passing is Magic Johnson-like. So there's a lot of people we can kind of compare him to, but I'm telling you, when this gets all said and done, he's just going to be Nikola Jokic, and then everybody else is going to be looking for, hey, this kid reminds me of Nikola, right?
Yeah.
He's going to be eventually a guy. And I'll throw you a question out there, and like I said, I've covered every game he's done since he's come into the league. And we had this discussion on my radio show a couple weeks ago. If the Nuggets can win an NBA championship, do you have to consider putting him already in the top 20 greatest players of all time? And
I don't think it's crazy.
Yeah, I think your first initial, if you're not in our market, you're probably go, oh, and then you sit there and look and you go, well, wait, every time he breaks a record, some guy named Bird or some guy named Wilt he just broke Wilt's record, right, for most triple-doubles in a playoff year. And he had another one last night, which only Jason Kidd ever had a triple-double, a point guard, had a triple-double in the first game of the finals. I'm telling you guys, and I'm a homer, but I tell the truth. He's the best player I've ever seen in the Nuggets jersey. Not even close.
Wow.
Best player I've ever seen.
Yeah, and it's playing that way on TV too. Scott, let me take you back to the bubble. There were two performances by two players, one Donovan Mitchell and the other Jamal Murray. I was like, oh my goodness, Murray's a problem. And I'm going to be honest with you, Scott, when he had that ACL injury, I, like a lot of people, just forgot about Murray. But are you at all surprised how he's come back from this injury and reclaimed like that tandem with him and Jokic is going nowhere, but Jamal Murray is back? Are you surprised?
I sat and had a good conversation with the guy that was on staff at the time that was in charge of the rehab, and he said, listen, it's about 2 years from the injury before they came back, and this April would have been right at that 2-year mark. He missed 2 straight playoff appearances. And people forget, he had the bubble year, and then the next year they were balling again. I mean, they were going to be a top 2 or 3 seed. They were balling again, and Murray tears his ACL, like in April, I think it was, and so missed the playoffs that year. They still beat Portland in the first round, and then lost to Phoenix. No, yes, no, but I've watched him all year. And he made a statement in the Lakers series, one of the post-game thing. He said, listen, my process, he said, it wasn't until mid-January before I played a back-to-back. And I will say this, and I think good franchises do this. You saw this, maybe this year with Golden State with Wiggins. Good franchises don't force guys back too soon. There was talk that last year when they played Golden State, if you remember, they lose the first 2 games there, then maybe Murray might return to game 3.
That's right.
And it was actually, and I talked to Josh Kroenke, the owner, and he said, listen, we got our heads together. I said, listen, no. I mean, he's not 100% confident. He hasn't really played a game. This is not fair to the kid. He's not playing. And I think I think there would be a lot of organizations that would panic and put the guy back out there. We're talking an ACL. And like I said, it wasn't until January before he played a back-to-back game this year. So I'm not surprised. Well, anytime it's a major knee surgery, you always worry. But his personality, Joker's the best player on the team by far, but Murray's your heart and soul. He's that guy that, hits a shot, gives the crowd a look, and all of a sudden it's like 18,000 Beatles fans all of a sudden start fainting and jumping and crying and screaming all over themselves. He's your catalyst. He's your, he's the guy that pumps blood into the machine. Now, Joker has the ability when Jamal's not playing great, all of a sudden Joker says, okay, here we go. Boom, boom, bing.
Right.
It's like last night. He took 5 shots. Joker took 5 shots through 3 quarters, guys.
Incredible.
And they didn't need him. They're up 21 points. And I'm telling you, he don't care.
Yeah.
He would not have cared if he'd have left the game and he'd had, whatever it was, 14 points or 15 points. He'd have been happy. He had 15 points and 5 shots in through the first 3 quarters. Then all of a sudden they make a tie, get it to 10 or 9 or whatever it was. And all of a sudden Joker drops 12 in the 4th quarter and kind of just quiets everything down and say, okay, this thing's done. But Murray's still the heartbeat of this team, really.
Scott Hastings joining us on 95.7 The Game. Scott, enjoy the rest of the finals. It looks good, but things can change. Who knows? But I'll tell you what, I enjoy watching Denver. That's for sure.
Well, you guys have seen great basketball for a lot of years, and it's funny, kind of the big-time national narrative of this team's boring.
Right.
And they're just methodical, and they open up the floor, and everybody touches the ball, and I'm like, and I know we got a new breed of people covering sports, but I'm like, dog, that's how I was taught to play.
Exactly.
You know? If you're open, make the pass. Steve Kerr said something a handful of years ago, and go back and look at this. When they passed the ball in any possession, I think it was more than 6 or 7 times, their turnovers went down. And I think a lot of teams are afraid the more passes, the more chance of turnover. They wanted 6 or 7 passes every possession. And you know what they did? They chewed the league up. They had great players, but they just crushed the league. So I like how they play. It's fun basketball. I don't think Miami's done in this series. I don't think they'll quit. I think they got too much heart, and I think they got the best coach in basketball, in my opinion, in Spoelstra. But if the Nuggets can win Sunday and you're down 2-0, they haven't experienced that in the postseason this year. This could be a short series if Denver can win Sunday.
Scott, we'll get you out of here on this one. A lot of disappointed Warrior fans, but I'm a fast forward to next year and give you the title this year, the Nuggets. But if I told you Nuggets Warriors in the conference finals, Western Conference Finals next year, would you be shocked?
You can say it, Scott.
Yeah,
you don't think the Warriors are getting back there. That's fine.
A little bit. Listen. I've got the utmost respect for that entire organization, but it feels like they have turmoil for the first time in a decade in the organization, and that is something they have not dealt with in the last 8-10 years. And this is just an outsider, and you're about to lose your GM that's been praised up and down for helping orchestrate this thing.
Yep.
I just think there's a little turmoil going on, and I'm not sure. Can they or will they settle it before next season?
All right, Scott. Enjoy the rest of the finals, and I'm rooting for you. Yeah. I know that.
All right,
man.
Appreciate it. And do you agree with my assessment on G State?
Oh, I think they're done, Scott, and that's why nobody likes me out here. No, I think they're at a crossroads. They're at a crossroads. There's no doubt about it.
Yes. Yeah. I think that. Listen, I think that's a fair statement. I think we have blind fans everywhere, and I'm probably one at times. I think the Broncos are going to be good next year. Not really. I'm like you. I'm honest. But I did think when they got Russell, here we go. Okay. Instead of getting Russell, we got Fat Russell.
All right. Have a great show today, Scott. Should be fun, man.
See you guys.
All right. Scotty Hastings.